Financial freedom is simply having greater income than your expenses. But it took me a while in life to grab hold of the actual numbers and to understand what the biggest expenses are, and to get confirmation that even if you cut your expenses down to the bare minimum, you need a certain amount of steady income. So in this video, I want to share with you the three biggest expenses, and then I want to share with you the three biggest forms of income, because you need both. First, with expenses. Your biggest expense in your lifetime will be if you choose to have a child. Children require bigger homes. Children require clothing, health care, and time. And when your time and resources are divided not just amongst yourself, not just amongst your lover, not just amongst your family, but amongst a child that you're responsible for, maybe up to the age of 18, maybe beyond. Because, for most adults, you don't just turn 18 and you're automatically independent. It takes several years to get independence. And some children never get it, maybe because of a disability, maybe because of a drug habit, maybe because of whatever. But I would say, by your mid to late 20s, you should start to be independent if you're a healthy, able-bodied, able-mind person. Because if you don't get out of your parents' house by your 30s, you're probably never going to do it until they die. So having a child is a person's biggest expense. Never forget that. And it will put a demand on how much you need to make. It'll put a demand on your time. And you'll never stop worrying to a certain extent. They'll bring joy to your life. For some people, it's their goal. It's not a bad thing to have a child, but it's a responsibility thing. And you have to understand your child's not asking to be born. You're forcing a child into this world. You're responsible for it. When you're young, it's a hormonal thing maybe. As you get older, it may be a dream. But it's a big decision, okay? And it's the top expense because it's not like something you can buy and then sell, okay? It's not like something that, goes away after you pay off a debt. It's there forever, depending on the circumstance. So don't let it fear you. If you already have children, don't let anything make you feel bad. This is a video for clear communication to remind and to remember and to focus on. And I want to make a notation before we go to the number 2 expenses. Having a pet can cost not as much as a child, but it costs a lot of money. A couple $100 at least per month if you average out vet bills, food, toys, time to walk it, take care of it. Having a pet is not just a default to take care of your emotions. It's a big responsibility, like having a child. So the number 2 expense after a child is your house, whether you rent or buy. And again, if you have children, if you have pets, you need a bigger house. So that's all part of why these expenses are like this. But a house, for a single person, you could have a small studio apartment. You could live in a van. You could share an apartment. But all those things, including living in a van, cost money. Insurances, gas, maintenance, replacement. Nothing is free. Okay? That's why we're going to get to an income, because you can't just live. So the number 2 expense is housing. Okay? Whether it's standard housing, like a regular house, whether it's a shared apartment, or whether it's a van, it costs money. And it's one of your 3 biggest expenses. And depending how many people are in your household, that expense gets bigger. The number 3 thing is your transportation, your vehicle. Having a car is one of the greatest forms of freedom, but it comes at a price. Insurance, mandatory, gas, wear and tear, and eventually you need replacement. I've often shared that have one of everything. Because when you duplicate one of the big 3 expenses, you put a big demand on your budget. If you have more than one child, that's a big demand on your budget. If you have more than one house, that's a big demand on your budget. If you have more than one car, that's a big demand on your budget. It doesn't mean you can't handle it depending on your situation. It doesn't mean you're wrong for having more, but you have to remember this because this is part of financial health, which is just one aspect of life, not the only, but it equates to a level of stress. All right, so that's the top 3 expenses. Let's get to the top 3 income. Click the thumbs up if you appreciate this video, share it, and hit the super thanks. Let's get to the top 3 income drivers. The number one form of income, the number one way you will get financial freedom is a job, a W-2 job, to be specifically, working for someone else. Why is that number one? Because entrepreneurship is risky. Most businesses fail. That's fact. Most investments are very volatile and not reliable. That's fact. The greatest thing you can do is have a W-2 job for the average person. There'll be some exceptions in society, but that's the number one way to create steady, reliable income. Your backbone of your financial independence, and definitely in the beginning of your life. It will change throughout the course of your life. But in the beginning and middle of your life, a W-2 job is the biggest form of income for the average person. There's exceptions. Then the number 2 form of income is a side hustle. Whether it's an official 1099 work, such as DoorDash, Uber, Instacart, whether it's working on someone's house under the table, painting, electrical work, plumbing, whether it's teaching online or tutoring or being a caretaker in a house or cleaning houses. These are all side hustles. Some people make their side hustle their main hustle. Got to be careful, because then you're not building up in retirement. You're not paying into a higher level of Social Security. And many people who try to avoid the number one source of income, W-2, they just use their second source of income, their side hustle, whether DoorDash, Uber, Instacart, cleaning houses, whatever. They're not paying high amounts into their Social Security or into their 401k or into their retirement. And that's how they end up broke as a senior. And then you can't go back and make up that money. It's too late. So number 1, W-2 job. Number 2, side hustle. Number 3 is investments. Number 3 form of income is investments. Why is investments last? Because it can be volatile and you have to make money throughout your career, throughout your life, to invest money. You know, because you can't just say buy the dip, but you don't have any money to buy the dip, and $1,000 ain't going to buy the dip. I'm talking about to live off investments, to have it as income, and to have it as proven profitable income over the course of several years of tax returns. That means you got to work to have that money, and then you got to have the stability to see that fluctuate and not risk too much, because you've worked and you know you respect money and you have enough to produce a dividend or income off that money. Then you're ready for that number 3. But the number 3 is the number 3 for a reason, because if you don't work, you don't have enough money to buy assets, whether stocks or any type of investments, and you don't have the stability to deal with the volatility. So that's the summary. Okay, top 3 forms of income: W-2 job, side hustle, whether 1099 or under the table, and number 3 is investments. The expenses were number 1, having a child; number 2, your housing cost; number 3, your car or your transportation cost. That is the top 3 expenses, the top 3 forms of income. Click that thumbs up if this video gave you value. Simple, easy to understand, under 10 minutes, high level value. Click that super thanks, click the blue join, share the video, and I thank you with all my heart on my second source, my 1099, number 2 source of income, YouTube, side hustle. Not a main job. Okay, unless you have enough tax returns to put it in that place. And even then, you got to be careful. Why? Because it can go away at any time. Thank you.